everybody! Welcome to my channel. I've got a really great video in store for you, at least I think so. So, in order to prepare for this video, I have a giant pile of books. Let me show you. Ta-da! And, well, some mess. This is real life in my house. But then again, I let you see my painted desk all the time, because I don't care. Now, before you run away from the big pile of books, I'm not showing you all the things in all the books, I promise. What I'm here today for is, one of the groups I'm in is bullet journaling for mental health. And it's something I'm a big fan of. And it occurs to me, because I look at bullet journaling videos pretty much all the time, and planning videos, that there's not too much on YouTube in the ways of bullet journaling for mental health. It's a bit of a niche, and even though it's something that I believe could help everyone, it gets forgotten, or so it seems to sometimes. So what I've done is, that pile I showed you is all of my bullet journals, and I've gone through each one, and I've put sticky notes on spreads that I think were mental health spreads. So I could go through and show you what spreads I've used. The idea is just to give ideas. I'm hoping by making this video I'll be able to use this as a reference. So if people say to me, hey, or are in a group I'm in and they say, hey, what are some ideas for bullet journaling for mental health? Well, here's a video that shows them. So, let us dive right in. And we are going in chronological order, so this is my very first bullet journal. I do think I am going to do flip-throughs one day. So the first one we have is my small victory spread, and there's a couple iterations of this, so those will go very quickly. The idea of this is giving credit where credit is due, and my therapist at the time actually loved it. So literally all I did was, I went with the tree and leaves because that's the aesthetic I wanted, and anytime I did something that I felt was noteworthy, didn't matter what it was, I would give myself a leaf, and I'd write it down. So some days it was big things, like I quit smoking on July 23rd. This was in 2016. That's huge. But one day, all I put was finished all but one daily item. So this goes into rewiring your brain, which I'll talk more about in a little bit because I have some more spreads along the same lines. This second spread I have here, excuse my shadows as I adjust, is my first attempt at a mood spread. And I've actually kind of come full circle, which we'll get to later. So I used faces the first time, and I just would place myself where I felt I was every day. I did note my period, that's what this is, because I find a huge difference in my period and how it affects my moods. So to me, it's very important to note. So that's one of the ways I've looked at my mood. And that's all in the first one. See? Not so bad at all. Second one. So this is my second iteration of that giving yourself credit where credit is due. This is my stars of success. So some days it was really, really small. Here we have the self-care spread. This was not my idea. I got this idea from Boho Berry. I don't know where she got it, but I will link her channel. And the idea is just every day you rank yourself from 1 to 10 on your sleep, your mood, your activity, and your diet. So here I took that self-care tracker and I made it larger. See guys, this isn't so bad at all. This is the first iteration of my wellness log. So On this side, you can't see it, but I'll show you again a later version. On this side, I tracked my sleep, which I am going to be revisiting for the month of June. I tracked my sleep, and then here I graded basically my anxiety, my anger, and my energy levels, and left space for notes. And it was just 0 to 10, 0 being great. I had no, if it was, except for energy level. If anxiety was 0, that's great. If energy was 10, that's great. This was obviously a time where I was working a lot on this. Here is a later iteration of that same wellness log, so you can see better. I'd highlight my sleep, and it expanded from just anxiety, anger, and energy to anxiety, panic, depression, anger, energy, and then my mood here. And this was the thing for my mood. The black was just terrible days. Here we have a slightly different version of the self-care. I've got the same self-care up here, mood, diet, sleep, activity, and then down here I have that same items, the anxiety, panic, depression, anger, and energy. I wanted to be able to see the correlation better, so I put it that way. This probably looks more familiar to you if you've been here before. This is the first time I took on this type of a spread. The difference is I had energy here where I had low, medium, high, balanced energy, and I would give it a star if it was bad energy. And the difference in the mood is I had words. Happy, productive, grateful, ugh, relaxed, stressed, excited, and then I added meh. Here. This I took to my overall mental health. So what I did here was sleep, these things you've already seen, the self-care, all put together, and then on the side here, I added my cycle. So red was when I was on my period, blue was my mellow days, green was my rough fertility window, and then pink was my post-ovulation phase. Because I noticed a lot of difference in my moods based on that. Here's another stars of success, so just another idea of how you can set that up. This is that one of giving credit where credit is due. This soul food one I just quickly wanted to show because I found it's definitely very important to feed your soul, to do the things that make you feel more full in life, and that overall helps my experience with mental health. So this one's very important to me. And then last one in this book was a little self-love, and I just wrote things I loved about myself every day for a month. Okay, if we're centered differently and the quality looks a little different, that's because I had to start a new clip. So please be aware of that as you're watching. As I was saying, this one is so important because my mental health, and I think all of our mental health, is linked very strongly to how we feel about ourselves and how we feel about our lives. Not that feeling better about yourself and your life will eliminate all of the things that you have to deal with, not at all. I can only tell you about this stuff from my perspective and from my experience. That's where I'm the expert. I'm not an expert on your life, on your experience. These are just ideas. These are just thoughts based on what I go through. If it's not true for you, then that's okay. That means it's not true for you. If it is true for you, well, I hope you can find something helpful here if you need it. So please be aware, I am not at all trying to discount or devalue anyone else's experience that is different from mine. I, too, have days where this shit just doesn't work. It just doesn't help. Overall, I am very happy with how this type of stuff has changed my life, has helped to rewire my brain. And that's why I want to share it, because it could be helpful to other people. Maybe not all, but it could be helpful to some. So for me, learning how to acknowledge the great things about myself has made a huge difference. And I'm telling you this now because this is the only example of this one. I'll talk a little bit more about it in a couple minutes. And that's the end of this book. We've only got 2 more left. This is another mental health hub spread. So we have my energy, which I set it up so that way it has the level. So 1 to 10, 10 being great. I put a line. So this is a baseline. So if my energy dropped below this line, something was really wrong and needed to be addressed. And then I also gave it a color code. So different types of energy. So if I was feeling balanced, even if it was low but my energy felt balanced, it would be a purple dot wherever. Scattered pink, hyper/jittery. Hyper/jittery would be green. Restless was orange. Blue was sluggish. So that way I could see where my energy level was and what type of energy I was dealing with. We have the self-care spread again, as it was. And you can see also I do have my color code for my cycle again. And all of them have a baseline. And then my mental health. And that baseline is hugely important because it tells me if something is below or above this line, it's terrible. For the energy, everything should stay above the line. For the self-care, again, it's above the line. For the mental health, you want to see it lower. This means I didn't have much anger or anxiety, depression, panic. This is an incredible spread. It's not quite what worked best for me. I needed to change it, which you'll see. But it is an incredible spread. And so I took several ideas and mashed this together here. This is almost the same thing. The difference is I also have my sleep. This was a fantastic spread. Someone posted a sticker that they use and that they sell in PGW. And I don't remember who it was. If you know who has a sticker on a weekly format for this, please link them, because not my idea. I don't like weekly stickers. They're not a thing I use. I loved the idea of seeing your hourly moods. This is huge for mental health, but I like seeing things monthly. And I wanted to do this because there are some days you think, man, it was a dreadful fucking day. But then this allows you to see reality. It not only allows you to see the reality, it allows you to see maybe every day at 2 o'clock you get really sleepy. Maybe every day at 5 o'clock you're just incredibly grumpy or angry. Those are things you can learn, and then you can work on figuring out, why is that happening? So that's why I used this. I think this is a hugely helpful for anyone, especially for those who are working on mental health things. The X's were times when I was sleeping. So I could look back, say this day I sat there and I thought, man, what a terrible day, because that 1 hour I had was so bad, it was overpowering my memory of all the good. So when I looked back on this, I could see, oh, wait, the day actually really wasn't that bad. This helped a lot with learning to recover from those bad things, because every hour I would have to fill it out. I'd say, man, this hour's so much better than last one, so I guess I can just move on from that better. This one helped a lot. And if you are the person who has a sticker shop that has this, I love you forever for this sticker, for this idea. This was a huge help for me. And if you want to see them in sticker form, to go in like an Erin Condren or a pre-printed planner, or even your bullet journal on like your weekly spread, they are adorable. They are amazing. They had a lot of spoony stickers. I'll try and find the shop and link it, because they deserve it. Here we have a different example of, this is down here. Let's see if I can zoom in a bit. Okay, so this was again because I wanted to see correlation for things. So we have what phase the moon was in, because that's stuff that's important to me. My spirit level, and that's how I felt spiritually. My cycle, and then the classic anxiety, depression, panic, anger. This is where I started to get the ideas for the spreads I'm currently using. But I wanted to be able to see it on a monthly correlated level. Okay. This is one I picked. This isn't necessarily mental health, but it's a great perspective. Last year had a lot of really hard moments, but it was also amazing. Towards the end of the year, my husband and I sat down and I decided to do this, and I literally just wrote some of my favorite things about 2018. And now I have this beautifulness to look back on and think, man, I actually had a really good year. Look at all these beautiful, wonderful things that happened to me. Last one, and you recognize this one. So this is my main spread of choice for tracking all of the things. I absolutely love seeing it in a yearly format, which is kind of funny because God is it a pain in the ass to draw. The one thing I don't like about this, and it's not that I don't like it, I just miss it. I'm not seeing direct correlations like you would in a monthly spread. It's a little harder to pick out the patterns. I don't know how I'm gonna figure that out. I know I can see certain patterns, like that for whatever reason, the 8th and the 9th of the month are always amazing days for me. So far the 15th is amazing days too. 28th, there are certain patterns you can see. You just don't get to see the overlap. I could add monthly supporting spreads so I can see the pattern on a monthly basis. Have this to look at on a yearly basis, or I could just wait until the end of the year and analyze all the data. So, don't know which I'm going to do yet. And the other thing I love about this is that I can also see seasonally how I'm doing. So, and this isn't the only one. I'm going to show you the rest in a minute. So, all of these things, the moons, my cycle, how I'm feeling spiritually, and my mood are all so interconnected. That's why they're all here. This type of spread may look different for you. It may have different things that are connected, although if you are biologically female, if you have a female reproductive system, I highly recommend this because there is still truth to the fact that our hormones affect us. They absolutely do. That is scientific fact. That does not mean when you're on your cycle you're going to be a raging bitch all the time. No, not even. It does, and it can change things. There is a lot you can learn by learning your reproductive biological cycle. It can tell you a lot about yourself, and it can give a lot of light to things that you may not understand about yourself. Like for me, when I'm approaching my period, I always start to feel more snuggly. The later half of my period is always more difficult for me than the earlier half, and that tells me a lot, and that helps me think of ways I can work around that. That helps me build my life in ways that doesn't become and remain a hindrance. So I highly do recommend that. The moons, not a lot of people are going to track that, and that's okay. Spirituality, again, for me, it's very important. The mood, this anyone can track. And I found that faces, like my first attempt at a mood spread, faces are easier for me because, like, there were so many days when I was using words where it was like, I don't really feel any of these. But the faces, I can always pick a face I feel. And then on the next page we have, and you might have seen this before if you've been here before, my specific mental health things that I deal with. My anxiety, depression, panic, and anger, it's very simple. And I keep it simple because if I do it more detailed than this, it can get very overwhelming. That's the thing. If you track it too much, that can make it worse. My grading scale for it is a lot, a little, and overload. And it's based on what I know is true of me. So when I'm feeling it, when I'm thinking about this at the end of every day, it's based on how I feel. And you can see I have quite a few days without any of it. And isn't that freaking fantastic? That's why I wanted to do this, because I wanted to be able to look and see, man, I had a really good month. Things are not that hard right now. I've got so many more days. Like, and again, this is what will be true for me. It may not be true for you. But I can look at it and I can say, man, I have a vast majority of my days I felt great. And it makes it easier to get through those times when you don't feel great. Your mindset makes a difference. It can't always, and it's not perfect, but it does make a difference. It can make a difference, and it has for me. And your perspective changes the way you experience life. That too, that's just fact. If you can hear upstairs, they're just playing around. They've got kids. Your perspective changes so much. I think we've all experienced times, certainly anyone who thought this video might be interesting, I'm going to guess we've all experienced times when we're feeling a little crummy. And then we think, damn it, I'm feeling crummy. This really fucking sucks. And then it gets worse and worse and worse. That does happen the opposite way too. It doesn't mean it's easy. Doesn't mean it works for everybody. It doesn't make the bad times any less crappy. They still suck. But it means maybe you can get past them better. Maybe you can sit there having gone through a terrible moment and think, okay, this is really sucky, but I'm going to be okay. Maybe. And that's not true for everyone. And that's not what I'm saying. And I will repeat that as many times as I need to. Because, again, the only thing I'm an expert on is my experience and my perception and myself. You are the expert on you. If this doesn't feel true for you, then absolutely take it how you need to. Maybe you can use the spread. Maybe you like the spread, but you think my code needs to be more detailed. Great. I don't care if the way it works for you is different than the way it works for me. Both are valid. There is no right way. This is not a thing. This life is not a life where there's one right way and everything else is wrong. Many, 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 many paths lead to the same destination. Many paths can lead to the same destination. This is not the way. It is a way, and it works for me. And I hope you find what works for you. Now I'm stepping down off my soapbox. Here we have this Be Proud and Grow. And this is very, very awesome. I got them from Miss McKenna's Life Leverage, Boho Berry. I already said I'd link her channel. I'll link Miss McKenna's Life Leverage too. The idea for these is, this one is basically a different iteration of when I was doing my stars for success. Instead of giving myself a star and writing, I just write it. You just find anything you're proud about that day. On the 8th, I was proud that I took a nap. I was sick and I took a nap. That's all I was proud of that day. And it's as simple as that. This one, the reason I love this one so much is because, again, it's helping to shift your perspective and your mindset. We are very hard on ourselves. That is what people do. We are terribly mean to ourselves. This is a way to learn how to be nice to yourself. This is a way to learn how to give yourself space to be okay with sometimes not being okay. Sometimes taking a nap is all you can get to that day. Sometimes that's it. And there's fuck all wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. So if some days you just need to take a nap, if some days all you can do is go to work despite the fact that you really didn't want to go, those are still great things. You're still living your life, and you still deserve to be proud of yourself. And the nicer we are to ourselves, the easier everything becomes. So that's why I did those spreads before, and that's why I've kept this one, and I will keep this one for the foreseeable future. Then we have the Grow. I did not finish this one, and I just don't know if I'm ready for this one yet. I don't know. But this could be a great idea. This one didn't really work for me. That doesn't mean it wouldn't work for you. So the idea was, at the end of the day, you would say to yourself, what can I do to make tomorrow better than today? And you write it down. And then the next day, you do that thing. So this was one of the ones that it did not work for me because I have a bunch of things that repeated. So for me, this wasn't a thing that worked. For some other people, having an easy thing they can put on their list to just check right off could be immensely helpful. This is a big one. I got the idea for this after I saw someone's presentation on DBT, dialectical behavior therapy. I made it super simple. The idea was to stop being mean to myself. And anytime I said or thought something bad about myself, I had to give myself a tally. And the idea behind this is the more you're aware of yourself doing it, your brain, if you're doing something and you know you don't like doing it, the more you're aware of it, your brain naturally starts to help. It's amazing what just being aware of a problem can do. I think what happened with this one is it's not in, like, I don't know, I think maybe because I started it later, it's not in, like, usual form. Don't know. So I'm still thinking about this one. Do I want to try it again? I also kind of don't feel I really need it as much as I thought I did then, because I feel like just having that for the days I did made me so much more aware of how I was talking about myself. So I feel like this might have done its job, but it's an amazing thing to have. Then we have, here we go, the gratitude log. I bet you were wondering where this was. Well, here. And actually the remember too. So one of the things I deal with my mental health is my memory's really messed. So I find it's a very good exercise for my memory to write, to engage with my memory more. So I read a little bit about my day, something I want to remember, and it helps me engage with my memory more, and my memory seems to be getting a lot better. And then we have the appreciate. This, again, goes for the same mindset, for the giving yourself credit, and for the seeing the reality of how your life is. Even if your thing you appreciate is the same every single day, this spread gives you things, or allows you to see things, engages you in the practice of being grateful for what you do have, even when what you don't have or what you struggle through is so difficult. It helps with hope, and that to me makes a big difference. And then the last thing I have is my new spread I've started this month, Into Our Temple. And this is going to change for the month of June. So I am recording what type of food I eat and how much water I drink. My type of food, if you saw my plan with me, a few have been added. What type of food I eat is mostly in the, so this one, was it vegetarian? Was it a meal with meat? Was it junky food? Was it sugary food? Did I have takeout? The takeout I just added, otherwise several of the squares would have red. I'm looking at this every day and seeing how I feel based on how I'm eating and based on how much water I'm drinking. I'm doing super well with drinking water. Water is pretty much all they drink nowadays. This is an example, it's the only one I chose, of how important external factors are to our mental health. I feel very different based on how I'm taking care of myself, based on how I'm appreciating myself, based on how I'm appreciating my life, based on how I'm doing in my life and what I'm doing in my life. It makes a huge difference. To me, it is the key. It is the secret. It is what enables me to get through all the crap I get through by myself. I have found a lot of benefit in seeing the external factors. Because I think there's always a thing you can control. Like, I can't control the type of food that makes me feel like shit. Like, I can't make it so that way I feel great after eating a bunch of chocolate. But I can stop eating a bunch of chocolate and feeling like shit afterwards. I can't change the fact that when I get less than so many hours of sleep, I feel like shit. But I can make it a point to get the sleep I need to, or to try and get the sleep I need to do the best I can, so that way I don't feel like shit. There are cases where there are external factors that affect our mental health, that affect our physical health, which affects our mental health. Our mental health is physical health. Your mental health is something that is misfiring in your brain, which is a physical thing. Don't even get me started on that. These are factors. They're not the whole. They're a piece. And they're an important piece. Every single thing you can do that you find helpful is amazing. For me, food. Making sure I eat better is a huge deal. Making sure I'm drinking lots of water is a huge deal. For me, caffeine is a huge deal. I realized if I drink caffeine, it makes my heart race. And then when my heart races, my brain associates that racing heart with panic. And so my brain tries to come up with a reason to explain the panic. And then I'm just having a shitty day and I feel depressed and panicky and anxious. I take out the caffeine and that starts to go away a bit. There are many factors. The state of our house can be huge. And I know that it's really hard some days to get up and do something. And it's a cycle because the state of your house makes you feel worse, which makes it so you don't want to clean up, and round it goes. And at some point, in some way, we got to try and figure out, okay, where can we stop the cycle so we can fix it? For me, that cycle stops when I look at this stuff, because I have a lot of anxiety about something bad happening to me. So for me, that's a huge motivator. Exercise is another big one, which I need to try and incorporate some way. There's going to be some additions to my June plan with me based on all of this stuff. I'm going to be adding some stuff, revisiting some ideas. There is another thing, which I haven't thought of a spread for it yet, although you could adapt this. You could adapt the idea of just writing it down. So the idea is, and I heard of this, was asking yourself when you're having a hard moment, or you're just like, I don't know what to do with my day, ask yourself, if I loved me, if I loved myself, what would I do? I'm not saying everyone who deals with mental health doesn't love themselves. There's definitely some correlation there. For me, that's the case. So asking myself, if I loved myself, what would I do? And there was many days when that was, I would have a nap. Or another big one, another external factor that is huge, and this is a hard one, turn off the news. Sometimes you need to shut it and step away. Not bury your head in the sand. Not spend years avoiding, or months avoiding, anything news related. No. It's learning to be aware of what's going on in the world. And learning that if watching the news or reading all these news articles or all these posts on Facebook about things happening in the world is triggering for you, if it puts you in a bad place, then you're not going to be able to help make a difference. In order to be able to help do the things you want to do, to help the people you want to help, to make a difference where you want to see a difference, you have to be in a good headspace. If you're in a bad headspace, if you're incredibly depressed, you're not gonna be able to help. And I know how painful it is because people have done it to me. I've told people I don't watch the news, which I don't, and I get accused of being an ostrich, sticking my head in the sand, and that's not what I do. And I know how painful that is, because the things that happen in this world matter to me. It's knowing for myself and telling them it's not about me not being aware. It's about me being able to turn that off sometimes. It's about me being able to say, right now, if I look at a news article, I'm going to burst into tears, and I am not going to be able to function for the rest of my day. And I have things I need to do. At first, I barely ever looked at the news because I was obsessed with the news. I was watching it, not watching it, I was reading it all the time, and it was making me depressed. It was making me feel hopeless. And then I was looking at it, and it was just a self-fulfilling prophecy, and there was nothing I could do. Until I decided to turn off the news, or to not look at comment sections, or whatever it is. And at first, that meant I went a long time without actively looking at the news. I would see headlines on articles on Facebook, but I wouldn't click on them. I'd scroll past, so I'd still have an idea of what was going on, but I wasn't finding out past that. I couldn't. Now, I look at the news probably 2-3 times a week. I actively am able to engage in the posts, in the conversation about the things happening in our world. If you want to change, if you want to help things get better, you have to get better first. You have to. If you want to change things and you can hardly think straight, well, until you find a way to help yourself think straight, sometimes you gotta shut it off. I highly recommend to anyone and everyone who is feeling incredibly overwhelmed and is struggling, turn off the news. Spend a day, spend a week, spend a month, and don't actively engage in it. You'll still know what's going on in the world. People will talk to you, you'll see headings, you'll see posts about it, you'll see articles. Take that information in, and then put it aside. And get to a place where you can actively engage without threatening your own safety and sanity. And then you can start to figure out how you want to help and how you can make a difference and what you want to do. And it's an amazing thing. This has been a really long video, and I don't care. This is important to me. If you kept through this, great thanks. I hope so much that something I've said, something I've shown has helped someone. And even if it hasn't, this has helped me, because this is important to me. Thank you for joining me. I have lots of other shorter videos and some other longer ones if you haven't been here much before. I hope you'll check some of them out. You can always like and subscribe. But that's all I've got for you in this today. And I really hope that you liked some of it. Thank you for joining me. And I hope you'll think about coming back. Love and light always. Bye.